Subscribe our channel. Stay till the end of the stories for more twist and turn. Comment us about what kind of stories you like to hear.
Are you enjoying these stories on Reddit, girls? Please show your support by taking me on a coffee date virtually and buying me a cup of coffee. Or 3. Link in the description below.
Story 1, AITA, for cheating on my fiancé and then parading the woman in front of her. In my city, there are two religious groups. Interfaith marriage is very frowned upon because we're viewed as a different race from the other religious group, even though we go to the same schools and practically everything else. Our religious group is a minority group and struggling with a population problem. The issue is that women way outnumber men in adulthood. The men in my community that are worthwhile enough to leave for education also have less reason to come back afterwards, while women are more stuck regardless due to cultural standards. Most of the uneducated men have very bad jobs and wouldn't be able to support a family. As such, competition for families trying to find a husband for their girls is fierce. I'm not going to say what I specifically do in case there's someone on Reddit that would recognize me, but I'm essentially the owner of a store. For some reason, to these parents, this means I'm basically royalty, which is ridiculous but true. My parents decided to force an engagement with one of the girls from our group. Her parents were offering a lot of money for a marriage, which isn't legal but happens. I have never been open to being with this girl in any way. I tried to be polite, but she was and is really annoying. Her parents would make her come to my house in my work daily and bring gifts and try to flirt with me. She even once dyed her hair blonde thinking that it would make me fall in love with her. Here's the thing. For the past few years, I've been dating a girl that ended up at the same university as me. She's from the same city but the other religious group, which is a big deal to everyone but us. I wanted to marry her, but while it's legal, it would also mean being disowned by both her family and mine. The only way for it to be acceptable is if she gets pregnant and I do the right thing. That way it's seen as something we had to do to make things right. So we decided to just not keep preventing. Long story short, the girl I actually love got pregnant, and we were able to get married with little trouble as predicted due to that. Things are going as well with her family, and my parents and grandparents have accepted it as well. We're really happy. The girl and her family are beyond angry. She's going around town wailing about me cheating on her and parading me around in front of her. I guess I did technically cheat on her, but I had no say in that engagement. I wouldn't have cared if she dated or married someone else in that time. Her relatives have also called me crying because she no longer has a real chance of getting married because they pinned all their hopes on me and now the other decent people are also taken. The community is kind of split too, which is bad for business. I'm trying to figure out if I'm in the wrong enough to do something or make a statement about it or if I'm right to just let it blow over. We can't, nor should we, really weigh in on how right the culture or traditions of your religious community are because that's not our place as outsiders. It certainly conflicts with the culture I was raised in but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Your former intended was through an arranged marriage and money exchanged hands to solidify the contract so she and her family have a solid foundation on which to be upset and outraged since this sort of thing, marrying outside the faith and disregarding familial arrangements, isn't the norm within your culture. You are also allowed your autonomy as a human being regardless of culture or community and choosing to break with the community, norms, and traditions are your choice and just as valid. For now, I think you'll just have to accept the consequences that come from the community. You knew when you were making your choices it was outside the norm and exploited a loophole, getting your GF pregnant, to try to legitimize the whole thing. More than likely the more you try to defend yourself here the deeper the rift in the community will become. The money would have happened when we got married. Serious money hadn't transferred yet. Agreed. In addition, in other comments, he indicated that he hadn't clearly said that he didn't want to marry her. Normally, I would say that he doesn't need to, but for all I know, his culture may not be an enthusiastic consent culture. That's not to say that he needed to clearly say I'm not marrying you, and he is in no way TA for not doing so, but without knowing more about ops culture, I can't call her TA either, so I'm going with nah. For all I know, it could be common among her friends to have husbands who will marry them, but also be rude to them, and she figured this was the price she had to pay for having a husband. Or perhaps she told her parents and Ops' parents that Ops seemed unenthusiastic, but they assured her that the marriage was still going ahead. I don't know, hence I can't judge properly. And if, for various reasons, I thought I was getting married, I too would get upset too. She could have even not perused other options because she thought she was engaged. I know from reading novels from earlier time periods, a man giving a hint that you were considering marrying a woman was as good as being engaged to her, and he was expected to follow through. Without knowing more about the culture, I can't say more than nah. I never gave any hint. Engagement contracts aren't actually a legal thing here anymore, they're religious only. It would actually be a problem for them if it ended up in open court because they're viewed as trafficking. But because of the religious angle, I could have stood in the park with a megaphone saying that I wasn't interested and she was free to date whoever and it wouldn't have mattered. Her parents would have forbidden it. Story 2, AITA, for not wanting to be in my son's life anymore? My ex-wife and I got divorced 2 years ago and have a son, 5, together. Our child has a dark complexion and brown eyes even though my wife and I are both very pale and have blue eyes. It was a bit surprising for me, but I never really gave the idea that this child was not my own any serious consideration. Flash forward to 3 years after our child is born and my wife and I get divorced. Our divorce was unpleasant but all things considered, not nearly as bad as it could have been. There was no infidelity or any irredeemable mistake by either party, just two people who no longer wanted to be together. We share custody but my son lives primarily with my ex-wife and her boyfriend. As the boy has gotten older, his features have almost entirely diverged from mine and he now looks absolutely nothing like me. Again, I thought nothing of it, as I trusted my ex-wife, but a couple of weekends ago when I was visiting him, I made a joke to my ex-wife that people will think I kidnapped because of how different we look. She then bursts into tears and admits that the child is most likely not my own. I am absolutely stunned and didn't interrupt her once as she spilt an entire saga of her cheating on me with her current boyfriend around the time we were trying to get pregnant. I thought I was going to throw up when I heard and immediately left her home. I don't know if I can ever go back or ever see my son again. I feel emasculated and deeply betrayed by my ex-wife. My wife insists that I remain a part of this family, despite all of the deceit. She has called me a deadbeat for leaving after she told me the truth and not sticking around to raise my son. She claims that even after all she's done to me, I am the asshole. I know none of this is my son's fault and I still care a great deal about his well-being, but I just don't think I can be a father to a child that is not my own, especially when the child's actual father is fully in his life. I feel like an unnecessary appendage in this relationship and I refuse to be humiliated any further. Am I the asshole for refusing to raise a son that is not my own? Clarifying point, I plan on doing an official DNA test before I make any lasting decisions. But I don't feel ready to have to converse with my ex-wife yet. She seems convinced her boyfriend is the father, not me. For now, I am keeping my distance. As much as I might despise them, the child is perfectly safe with my ex-wife and her boyfriend. They both love him deeply and this would be a very different conversation if that were not the case. Edit. A lot of people are talking about child support being a real issue here. I am not particularly worried about this at the moment. That discussion will come, but both my wife and I have well-paying jobs and the child's future will be secure financially regardless of the outcome. AITA. After you take the DNA test, think things through. If it's positive, it may just be that there are recessive genes that lead to kids looking different than their parents, think eye color and stuff like that. If it's not your child, think about what you want. You have no obligation whatsoever to this kid, and you are by no means TA. It is your ex's fault, because no matter what, she always knew there was a possibility the kid wasn't yours and she lied to you for years. I'm sorry you're in this position, and whatever you decide moving forward, keep in mind that the kid's not to blame and that you're 100% in your right if you choose to say goodbye to him. I wouldn't drop out from one day to the next without a single word because that may be traumatic for him. Maybe hang out with him once and try to explain the situation if possible, and leave them for good. Edit, typo. Adding to top comment, depending on where you live, if the kid is not yours and you decide against being a part of his life, you will have to go to court. If you've signed the birth certificate, you are still on the hook for child support unless a judge rules otherwise. Good luck, op. First of all, I'm so sorry this happened to you, op. But I disagree that he has no obligation. Whether or not he is biologically the father, he is this kid's dad. After reading posts like this Reddit, my husband and I talked about how he's being the one to impregnate me isn't why he's our kid's dad. It's that he's been there for them, taking care of them, every day of their lives. Think of it from your son's point of view. You're his dad. You're the only dad he's ever known. Even if he's living with his biological father, that is a new relationship. You are his dad. After 5 years I would expect deep love and bonding. How could you lose that? Yeah, it's a difficult situation, but I'm kind of surprised by all the comments basically saying, well, the kid's 5 so he's not going to know the difference or care when op is replaced by his real dad. Isn't 5 old enough for him to know op as his dad? Old enough to feel abandonment when op just nopes out, even if he does have a new father figure to replace op? Thanks for listening so far. If story have update, we will post here. Like and subscribe to our channel for upcoming stories.